Hello and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I hope you are all well. Today, I wanted to continue the series I have been now doing. This is the third or the fourth one in the series of the importance of creating a wellness asset, ensuring that we're having the right conversations when we are talking about our value iceberg. And today, I wanted to talk about how you can create a wellness asset, and more importantly, how you can have that genuine, lasting impact that you want by creating that profitable wellness asset. A few weeks ago, just to kind of rewind what we were talking about, we talked about how we as wellness leaders felt that wellness is neglected in hotels, how we are actually treated like that department that generates 1 to 3% in total hotel revenue. And when we think that we are the bit player, when we feel that frustration, we actually act in a very reactive way, thinking that we don't have the power. And what we end up doing is we create the result of further perpetuating the myth that wellness is not a substantial value or revenue contributor. What I wanted to offer was that we actually have far more power than we can even imagine. General managers are generalists. They're looking for us, the specialists, to guide them, to show them the way forward. And we are the experts in our business. We are the wellness specialists. So once we recognize that it's actually us who knows the value and the power of wellness, we start to feel far more empowered, and we act in a more strategic way that ensures we actually end up creating that wellness asset. I then talked about how not all wellness offerings just by default are wellness assets. They actually aren't. I talked about the 4 different types of wellness offerings: risk, liability, opportunity, and asset, and how we needed to ensure that we had an asset from the get-go. And the reason we have so much problems with our wellness offerings in all the hotels we go to, or in the majority of them, is because we're actually trying to make a liability an asset without even trying to go back and ensuring that we're fixing what needs to be fixed from the get-go before trying to employ business strategies that are actually applicable to a wellness asset. And last week, I talked about the value iceberg, how most of our business strategies are actually focusing on the tools. That for me is that toolbox, our therapies. What elements do we want to add into our wellness offering? But rarely do we go below that, to the base of the iceberg, where it's deep strategy. It goes beyond revenue management strategies, learning how to write a budget. It goes far deeper than that. It's about what impact we want to make, because really what we do as wellness leaders, very few leaders out there in the world have the potential to make the impact we have on people's lives. And today I'd like to talk about the 7 key stages needed in order to make a profitable wellness asset. So, as usual, I have prepared a presentation for you that I will be sharing. So, there are 7 key steps to creating a wellness asset. These are the stages that are needed to make wellness work, irrespective of the type, size, and segment of a hotel. So you could be a new build, refurbishment, already operational, and all these stages are pivotal in creating a solid wellness asset. And when any of these stages are skipped, you end up with box standard wellness offerings that either underperform, are heavily subsidized, or bleed money. I have put the 7 steps in my unique essence model. For those of you who have read my book, The Wellness Asset, I have dedicated a whole part talking about each of the stages in my essence model. And when I work with my clients, I take them through the 7 key stages of the Essence model and show them how to create wellness offerings that work for their property's reality. Wellness offerings that add value to the hotel's asset ecosystem without breaking budget or building facilities that become outdated before recouping investment, or that are part of brand standard because you are a luxury hotel. Obviously, you have to have a spa, but don't make business sense in that particular hotel. So let's take a closer look at the Essence framework. There are 7 stages that cover 4 key phases of building a wellness asset: plan, implement, iterate, and grow. In plan, we have the stages of expectation and story. These stages focus on concept development. We start off with the first stage, expectation. Expectation, also known as the perfect wellness concept framework, is about creating the perfect wellness concept for your particular property. It's about looking at your concept from your point of view as a wellness leader, and also taking into consideration your owners and your hoteliers' point of view. We then move on to the next stage of story. Story, also known as the winning plan framework, is about how to successfully solve your guests' well-being problems, because ultimately they buy to solve a problem they have. Story is about looking at your concept from your ideal guest's point of view. Please always remember, we do not just sell massages and facials and body scrubs. Now, once we have the concept in place, we then move on to the implement phase with the stages of system and execution. System, also known as your special way framework, is about creating your special way of doing wellness that differentiates you from the rest. It's never the what that differentiates you. It is always the how. And once you have established how you do things so specially, you are then able to find your people, which takes us to the next stage, execution. Execution, also known as the Lean and Ideal Team Framework, is about how to pull the right team together that is willing and able to do wellness the way you want them to do it. And once we've successfully implemented our wellness concept, we enter into the iterate phase in the stages of navigation and consistency. And to date, for me, all the spa managers and all the wellness leaders I have met have always encountered difficulty in this stage of iterate. We love creating. We love going back to the drawing board and creating a fantastic concept and experimenting with it. But the problem is, very rarely do we actually see our beautiful concept through to the other end. And the reality is that very rarely will we ever nail our concept the first time around. We will always need to iterate it. But what generally happens is that a new wellness leader comes, they go and overhaul everything. They go and create, now I'll put myself in there because I've done that in the past. I go and create this new wellness concept. It takes roughly a year for it to actually go from concept, get approval, and then you implement it. And then when things don't work as expected, we suddenly want to go and change it. Then a new director comes in and they throw the whole thing and create a new thing. So they just stay stuck in expectation and story, system, perhaps execution, but rarely do they ever get into the iterate phase. So the most important phase for me is navigation. Navigation, also known as the course correction framework, is about how to stay on track with your big picture goals, saving you thousands of dollars in expensive mistakes. And once we are on track with our big picture goals, we are able to delve into day-to-day operations, which takes us to the next stage of consistency. Consistency, also known as the Service Blunder Preemptive Framework, is about how to ensure your team consistently delivers remarkable experiences to your guests. And finally, after fine-tuning our concept, we enter into the most important phase, grow, in the last stage of engagement. Engagement, also known as the Exponential Outreach Framework, is about how to build a loyal and committed customer base that happily leaves rave reviews about your wellness offering, saving you thousands of dollars in marketing spend, or having to actually beg your sales director to give you that marketing spend. Engagement is the icing on the cake that sets your wellness offering apart from the rest, and also ultimately your hotel. It keeps you one step ahead of your competitors. Now, you could do almost all stages really well, but you skip one of them or do them wrong, you end up with a wellness operation that either barely breaks even, is heavily subsidized, or bleeds money. In other words, you end up with a wellness liability. For example, you might have a brilliant wellness concept that you manage to successfully implement with a fantastic team, but 6 months later, you come across a hot new trend and you change your concept to match this hot new trend or brand standards being sent from corporate, and completely fail because that trend doesn't quite fit in the reality of your property. Or in my book, I talk a lot about hotel traditionists, incredibly well-intentioned owners who wanted to do amazing works and ended up designing the whole wellness concept based on their personal preferences. They completely ignore the essence model and set themselves and their teams up for failure right from the outset. So when you follow all the 7 stages of the essence model, you end up with a wellness offering that is a substantial value and revenue contributor to your hotel. In other words, you have a wellness asset. You, as a wellness leader, have created a wellness asset. Now, the question is, how does the essence model help you make that genuine, lasting impact? You do that by first knowing what wellness offering you have. Do you have a wellness asset or one of the rest, opportunity, risk, or liability? I have created a scorecard, the Essence Scorecard. It's completely free. And the idea behind creating this scorecard is to give you an accurate snapshot of where your business is today. Where are your superpowers, so to speak? And what are your areas of improvement that are within your control? Take this scorecard, know where you are with your wellness offering. You'll then be sent a very detailed report to your inbox with the results in each of the 7 key stages of creating a profitable wellness asset, along with simple yet actionable tips to get closer to that asset quadrant I talked about. I cannot stress how important it is to know what wellness offering you have. We can't automatically assume that even if our wellness offering is completing budget now or smashing budget and doing amazing, that it's an asset, because actually reaching or exceeding budget is a relative standard. Someone has put that budget, and if we're crossing it, we're incredibly happy. And that could be because we're just very lucky that we are in a hotel where the average treatment rate is probably a third of what the average daily rate of the hotel room is. Whereas in another circumstance, we might have probably roughly the same amount, or an average treatment rate is, let's say, 170 euros, where the average daily rate for the hotel is probably only 300 euros. So it makes it a lot more challenging to promote your wellness offering. Incredibly important to know what wellness offering you have. I have created the Essence Scorecard for you, and you get a detailed report where you know exactly how you have scored in each of the 7 stages. And that will give you valuable insights as to, okay, where is my kryptonite right now? And what do I have in my control to actually start editing and get my wellness offering to the asset before I go full throttle when it comes to business strategy to boost and promote my business. I hope, again, as always, that you find my banter useful. Wishing you all a fantastic day. And I'll be putting the link also at some point of the Essence Scorecard in the comment section so you can take it. Wishing you all a fantastic day. Adios. Ciao.